What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the MMO Fix podcast. Old school with you tonight. And we've got Guild Wars 3 on the menu. Now, this is a little bit of a reach because we really have no idea if this game is going to be built. And that's what this video is about, actually. We know with ArenaNet's recent success with Guild Wars 2 being, MMO of the year by a lot of companies last year, and considered to be the fastest growing MMORPG on the market right now. It's currently got about 500,000 daily players, by the way, so it's quite popular. Top three on the big dog list. So it kind of just came out of left field and just gained massive popularity within the last couple of years. One of the reasons is because they've done so many improvements to the player experience that new players get hooked when they play. It's just an amazing game. It's got a lot to offer. So that being said, ArenaNet's been around for a while now. They made Guild Wars, which was super popular. These guys knew how to do PvP back when Dark Age of Camelot was doing PvP. And yeah, they've been doing it forever. We've got Guild Wars 2. It's an amazing game. I play that. It's probably my most played current MMO RPG. I'm playing basically all of them like I always do, but yeah, it's just the ease of being able to log in. I don't really feel it's so much like a job playing Guild Wars 2. And that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of things that I'm not desiring from the game. There are reasons why I haven't been playing as much as I could be. The game does leave a lot to be desired for an old school MMO player like myself, because I've tasted all the flavors. I know what you can get in these games. That means that when I get something and then I don't get it, that's kind of disappointing. That doesn't mean that, I expect every single game to have every single thing that every single game has, but it means that there are some big features that have kind of modernized MMORPGs. And I do believe going forward, if you don't have these features, your game will suffer. It builds a community around the game a little bit more. We'll discuss some of these features and why. And it just kind of adds different elements to the gameplay that makes it a unique experience, even if you're playing it for, not just the first time, but maybe the 10th time. And that's one thing that Guild Wars 2 suffers a little bit from, is the repetitive gameplay experience. Now, let's just get right into the top 10 most wanted things that I want from Guild Wars 3. This is the wish list. Now, I'm hoping you guys will comment down below and everybody can tell me, do you guys like this or do you guys not like this? What do you think? You let me know. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think that they should go forward with a Guild Wars 3? Due to the recent success of Guild Wars 2, it would probably cannibalize a new game. And that's one of the reasons why you'll never see a World of Warcraft 2, because Blizzard realized a long time ago that if they did that, they would ruin World of Warcraft 1. That's why they at least, released the classic servers, and that cannibalizes World of Warcraft itself. You've got players divided now amongst, different variations of the game, which over a long time period is not good for your player base. So Guild Wars 1 was outdated. They came out with Guild Wars 2 because technology was just adapting so quickly and things were moving forward so fast. You had a lot of games launching back then. So 10 years later now, Guild Wars is like a fine wine. Guild Wars 2. It's aged amazingly well. It's kind of like Final Fantasy with A Realm Reborn. It was a terrible launch and they redid it, and it's been, for what that game is, it's a good experience. And recently you had New World, kind of a failure of a launch, and they've been coming back pretty strong with their game. Guild Wars 2, though, has had 10 years to get this right. And when you play their game, you can tell just the way that the game is so smooth, the play, and the mount system, which everybody talks about, it's just so smooth. The animations, the combat feels fun. It doesn't feel stale. It's not as quick paced as like a Black Desert Online. And for some people, after they play a game like that, going back to something like Guild Wars 2 might seem a little bit slow paced. But if you compare something like BDO to World of Warcraft, it's like a 1 and a 10 on, gameplay speed. That being said, back to the wish list. I'm going to start with dynamic weather. And that's because I believe that for the most part, you're going to start seeing this in almost every game that we see coming out. Throne and Liberty's promising it, PAX Day, there's just a lot of them that have it. I believe Ashes of Creation has some elements of that. Pantheon was supposed to have some. I'm sure the Riot game will have some. And so I want to see something like wind and maybe rain and lightning and have some sort of effect maybe on player abilities, but not just that, but I want it to terraform the landscape. So when it rains, it would be nice if you saw water levels rise. And that does happen in a couple of games. And even in I think ArcAge has currents in the water. So, this technology is possible. So let's get it in there. Let's stop waiting. The second thing on the list, and I'm pretty sure everybody can agree with the dynamic weather thing, but if you don't agree, please let me know why, because I'd like to understand why you wouldn't want to see dynamic weather in a new MMORPG. The next thing is evolving mobs. Now, you can kind of think of the new upgrade that Albion Online got, where they have these corrupted mobs, which basically the longer they stay in the world, the more powerful they become, the better loot that they drop. That's a basic version of what I'm talking about with these evolving mobs. They've had all sorts of AI that does this and that over the course of, the last decade in MMORPGs, but I think the new Albion thing, they got it right with the way it works. Just put timers on mobs, and the longer that the mob stays in the world, the more powerful. Maybe the mob gains an extra ability or two if it's there in the world for a whole day or something. And it gets the ability to drop better loot. And it comes up on, as a rare mob. But that's how it works with rare mobs. It's not just a rare mob that just sits there and is just basic and static. So that's an evolving mob, basically. And I hope that we see them in a new game. And if Guild Wars 3 is the unannounced ArenaNet project that's coming out, and we know that that's coming out because they're hiring 1 million people, by the way. And I forgot to mention that part. But they are hiring a ton of people for a new game. They said it was, working with some of their intellectual property that they had, and they wanted to expand. So we'll see what happens. I'm just talking about the fact that an ArenaNet is capable. If any company could do this, it's one of these top successful companies. ArenaNet is one of them. Guild Wars 2 is one of the most successful games on the planet. So the things that I'm talking about are probably going to come out in the next arena. And remember, NCSoft is the one that's doing Throne and Liberty. So I'm sure a lot of these things that I'm talking about here are going to be in Throne and Liberty. But if Guild Wars 3 was to come out, I'm sure these things would probably be in it too. And these are the things that I'm hoping for. That's all this is about. And I'm just wondering about your opinion. Do you think Guild Wars 3 is a good idea? Should they come out with something like this? Or should they use just a completely different intellectual property going forward? We're going to have Throne and Liberty, which is going to be a different intellectual property. So why not see a Guild Wars 3? I don't know. I kind of think it would be cool. Anyways, and the team is amazing at ArenaNet. You could keep the whole team together and screw cannibalizing it. Oh, well, everybody would move over to Guild Wars 3, just like they did with Guild Wars 1. After a decade or two for some of these games. Like EverQuest is now 24th year. They're doing their 24th anniversary. So yeah, back to the wish list, and after evolving mobs, one of the next things that I'm hoping for is going to be player versus player leveling hubs. Now, think about Warhammer Online. Basically, and even World of Warcraft on player versus player servers, they did it very well. The idea was to basically have a map designed where both opposing factions were relatively close while they quested, and they were flagged. And it didn't create like ganking and all this other stuff. You were low level. You didn't have the ability to gank anybody else. I mean, you could try and you would, and yeah, whatever. You have crappy gear and it's just some shit that you deal with. But it's fun. It definitely makes it more exciting. And there's no reason why they shouldn't be designing these new MMOs, especially knowing how popular player versus player is these days, with the leveling design around player versus player. Now, I'm not saying that you would have to level in these hubs, but if you wanted to, you could. So yeah, I mean, why are we playing Warhammer Online in fucking 2023? You fucking tell me. Because nobody else has come out with a game that's fucking good enough to give you that type of player versus player experience in a low level tier like that. Warhammer Online. Fucking unbelievable that that game crashed. Anyways, and I'm glad it's revived. But player versus player leveling hubs, yeah, no reason why we shouldn't see them, and that's on my wish list. What do you think about player versus player leveling hubs? Because, I mean, like I said, if you don't like them, then why not avoid them? Go level somewhere else. But let the people that want to have some fun while they're leveling up and they're low level do it. So, next. Player housing. I mean, why not have it? Most games do. Even Black Desert has it. And I mean, I don't even consider that game one of the top 5 MMORPGs. I mean, Lord of the Rings Online has it. You want to get serious? EverQuest 2 came out in 2004. That game has it. Come on, I mean, that's ridiculous. So, I mean, I get why some of these games don't have it, but no, they should all have it because it's something that players can work towards while they're not like wanting to grind or possibly player versus player or do some raiding or dungeons. Maybe they just want to go out and do some achievements that get them stuff to put in their little house in their virtual friggin' world. You know what I'm saying? But if dudes and chicks spend all this time, honestly, on their dudes and chicks in game, you should hope that player housing would be something that all games would consider, considering many do. So, yeah, player housing, basically a must. Have to have it. Going forward, and this is basically specifically to this game now, I'm not talking about like, I'm talking specifically about Guild Wars 3. And I know a lot about Guild Wars 2, and I love the game. And like I said, and these couple things are basically, geared specifically and directly towards this game coming out with a new version. So one thing would be more races. I think 5 races is wicked limited. I don't like it at all. It's a terrible thing for replay value. And yeah, even for a new player experience, that amount of options is terrible. Do something like even EverQuest. I mean, come on, has literally 3 times that many. It's just at the stage where going forward, we're expecting more than 5 races. And there's quite a few, Wayfinder is an upcoming game, and I believe there's like 5 Wayfinders at first. You can't do this anymore. It doesn't get people excited, period. I think like Ashes promises like 64. That's a little bit over the top and ridiculous. Vanguard had like way too many, and look what happened with that. I think about like 20, 25. BDO feels like exciting when you're picking your ace. There's enough there, and it doesn't feel over the top. But I mean, balancing a player versus player game around a million races is a little bit crazy, and classes, just because of sizes, animations, whatever. But anyways, I think more races, definitely. Definitely. Don't need more classes in this game right now. I'm not asking for more classes in Guild War 3. I mean, you'd have new classes because it would be Guild War 3. But yeah, you definitely need more races than 5 in a new version of the game. On top of that, quest lines. Something that I'd like to see in a new Guild Wars would be racial quest lines. Like, I want the ability to go on a whole quest line like the main storyline, but just for the race that I pick. Especially if there's only 5 choices. That's kind of ridiculous that there isn't something like that. Doesn't seem like it would be that hard to do. But yeah, I believe that that's something that's lacking, and it's a major issue. It gives you like less identity with your race that you pick. Like, you don't feel as attached to the area, and it's a player versus player game that's world versus world. You should have some like identity for where your character's from. And on that note, I think there should have been quests for classes. I mean, it's just like, you hit level 80 and okay, you get to put points in an elite spec, but what the fuck is that shit? I want to like go on a quest about my elite spec and fucking learn about it by like some lore shit by, you know, almost every game that's a big game has this shit. I get Guild Wars 2 is a different type of game, but I'm saying if we have Guild Wars 3, I think they should have like quest lines, and it should be built with something with that intention in mind. And maybe they reward like, an ability for your class. And the race ones reward like some sort of heritage armor that would be like, some sort of skin, an armor skin for that race. And on that note, it's just more quest lines is just another thing, just in general. But I think if you had racial and class quest lines, the game would feel like it had a lot more to offer than it currently does. And this game is amazing to play. I wish there was more quests in it that made you feel more linked to the game, more linked to the world, more a part of Tyria. And, like, you're in Norath, you're in Azeroth. Like, Tyria, I mean, you come and you go. And they could fix that. They could make this game, crazy going forward if they redid it with a Guild Wars 3 and they just hyped it out with mad quests. That would be a game changer. Another thing is going to be simplified combat. Now, this, it's like, I love the combat of Guild Wars 2, but there's a couple of problems. One of them is that you don't need that many abilities. Now, if you start Googling around on Reddit and shit for Guild Wars 2 and stuff, there's a lot of shit on low intensity builds. That's because people don't want to fucking press 1,000 fucking buttons a minute. It's just a fact. I mean, they have this shit on every type of game now, especially MMORPGs. But think about it. Okay, Guild Wars 2, you got 5 fucking abilities that you can swap to. That's 10 for your 2 weapons. And then you have 5 more utility abilities. What the fuck? Then, on top of that, you got your class fucking action abilities. Like your F1, your F5, whatever. So, I mean, that's 10, 15, 12, minimum of 12 buttons for every single class. I think 11 for maybe Deadeye because it has 1 at the elite spec. But I mean, let's put it like this. That's a lot more fucking buttons that you want to be pushing. That's like, dude, people on controllers aren't doing that. Console gaming isn't requiring you to spend that many fucking actions per minute. And if it is, it's set up in a way where your hand can do it more easy. I'm not fucking complaining. I'm just saying it's something that people talk about because it is a real issue. Guild Wars 2 Combat has too much shit to push. Like, take Elder Scrolls Online, for example. Now, I'm not saying that game's fucking amazing. I'm not saying the combat's amazing. The combat is pretty good. Game is pretty good. Game is very popular. But you have half the abilities to push. And you still have a weapon swap. And I like how that game you get to level up the abilities that the weapons have. That's something Guild Wars 2 doesn't have too, where Guild Wars 3, and I'm going to throw that on the wish list at the end here and say, because I didn't mention that, we'll throw that under Simplified Combat, but that is definitely a wish. And the last one is going to be, I hope they fix buffs and debuffs. And that's going to be basically the Simplified Combat. Get rid of that many buttons, make it more like ESO. You could have like 6 buttons going forward. I bet you like Throne and Liberty, like even Blue Protocol has way less buttons the way it's going to be set up. I mean, going forward, they know that we don't want to do this many actions per minute. This shit's going to change. So the buffs and the debuffs too in Guild Wars 2 with the conditions and the boons overlapping, and you literally, if you look over ability, there's like fucking 20 lines of text, and it's just like fucking numbers. It's absolutely ridiculous. You shouldn't have to, know rocket science. And I've written a book. I published a book on software, and I'm pretty fucking smart. I went to college for 5 years. That shit is ridiculous, okay? I want it to be some easy to fucking understand shit. World of Warcraft does it pretty good. I mean, their system is really easy. So I think going forward, if Guild Wars was to do a Guild Wars 3, I think one of the most important things that they do is revamp the buffs and the debuffs, the boons and the conditions. So whether you make it like an EverQuest or you make it like a World of Warcraft, just do it something that's a little bit more simplified. Especially in a player versus player game. We don't need it to be this complicated. It's just ridiculous. And that's about it. And thanks for hanging with me. If you actually did, my breathing's pretty bad tonight. I've been a little bit sick. And I really appreciate you. If you hung on this long, you might be interested in Guild Wars 3 if it was coming out. But this wasn't just only about that. It's just about games in general going forward. These are the things that we should be demanding out of new MMORPGs. We're the ones spending money. They're the ones under-delivering and overcharging. And we want more from a game. And it's interesting because NCSoft, Guild Wars 2, and that's what we got with Throne and Liberty. So we've got a big opportunity here to see somebody try to do something good. If they let us down with Throne and Liberty, I can tell you fucking one thing, guys and girls, that everybody and their mom will be waiting for the Riot MMO, and no one will be even giving a fuck about anything in between now and then. It's just going to be waiting rooms for that game. And if they stay silent for too long, that'll also fail. They've only got too long before they're fucking gaslighting the shit out of this thing. The Riot MMO, either launch some news, put out some information, or, you know what I mean? Fuck it. Say that you're fucking not doing it or some shit. They'll just be quiet. But my point is yeah, we as a group of consumers and fans of the industry deserve more information and news, especially from top developing companies. These companies make billions of dollars. They can fucking hire, someone that comes on social media or put together a few more videos. At least one thing I like about Ashes of Creation is they put together these development videos. Yeah, they've got that new little conspiracy going on with Narc and this other fucking shit that Steven said. But all I'm fucking saying is that in general, at least they put together some decent videos. Like the PAX Day launch video. That was done well. But we need more shit like that. Even Throne and Liberty, NCSoft's been quiet since Amazon was announced as the publisher. And I think we all know why. Is Amazon sitting there getting their shit together, getting ready to basically re-deliver this game to us in the format that they think is best for the West. And that's it. So, boys and girls, thank you very much for sticking around again. And I hope you have a beautiful night. And we'll do some more news this week because I got another topic I'd like to cover. And if we get any breaking news, you know I'll be on that. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. The channel is new. Have a good night.